good? Okay. All right, well, hi everybody. As Daniel said, my name is Choi. Just want to thank LCCC for having me out, and Daniel Ma especially. It's going to be about a 20 to 30 minute presentation, and then we'll have a little time for questions afterwards. I'll read you just a short excerpt from my exhibition statement, just to get us started off. Art making for me is a spiritual and intentional practice. My hope is for a painting to emerge as an almost accidental byproduct of participating in still moments. Natural and spiritual discovery is the true art, and painting is the material result. Through this process of outward and inward exploration, I aim to find something beautiful or unexpected and share that with the viewer. So just a little bit about me and my practice. Like Daniel said, I mostly work in gouache, primarily landscapes at the moment. On the left here, you can see Roxborough State Park down near Denver. On the right here is Capitol Peak, out near, it's kind of close to Maroon Bells area. But I just really love working outside. I'm doing a lot of these kind of smaller format gouache paintings, just because they're easier to transport, easier to do in a single day when I'm outside. If you're not familiar with gouache, they're essentially like an opaque watercolor. They have like a nice matte finish that photographs really well. I also do larger oil paintings. This is a commission of the Wind River Range for a client out in Utah. The Cirque Towers, if anyone's familiar. The client is a rock climber and went on a trip up here and then wanted a piece to kind of commemorate their trip there. Here's another Wyoming one. This is the Snowies. I think that this is Medicine Bow Peak. This was painted out this summer, also plein air, or painted outside. This painting got into a show last year that was up in Sheridan, Wyoming, curated by T. Allen Lawson, who I'll talk a little bit about later. But yeah, just kind of a fun, plain scene. I really like the way that the light was hitting this building. I feel like it kind of ties in that feeling of winter and evening. I've had some people comment that they felt cold looking at this painting, which you feel that? Yeah. Yeah, which was really satisfying for me to hear. I'm also a mural artist, so here's a couple murals from Portland, where I used to live, as Daniel was talking about. I do a lot of community-based mural projects. So on the right here is a nonprofit urban farm. They were kind of revamping their children's garden area, and that's a scene from that. Some local wildlife, and then some different vegetables that they grow at the gardens. On the left side there is a food cart area, and then they also had an indoor dining hall. So they just wanted a kind of backdrop for visitors. These are a couple Denver murals that you can go down and see. On the left is Quint's Coffee House in East Denver. And then on the right side here is movement climbing and fitness in Rhino, their Rhino location. This is kind of their stretching workout area. This one on the right was done in collaboration with another artist. You can see her handle on the bottom of their jitterbug art. Her legal name is Latasha Dunstan. Definitely recommend that you check out her work. This one, unfortunately, you can't see. It's in an office space, but just different 14ers in Colorado. So on the left is Maroon Bells, then Capitol Peak. This is actually the same view that you saw in the gouache painting earlier. I believe it's Mount Sneffels, the third one there, and then Longs Peak. The Bears, the manager there just really likes the Grateful Dead so that's why those are in there. So my learning journey really began after class in high school. So I had a really inspirational teacher, kind of my last year in high school, and I was thinking about art as just something to do, and she convinced me that it was possible to pursue a career. And so after that, I ended up at Watts Atelier of the Arts in San Diego to kind of pursue my education a little further. This is just a picture of like the beach near the school with my friend on the left there. I was really inspired to go to Watts just because their program was very technically focused. Every class, the teachers would draw right in front of you, sometimes even for the whole class. So you really got the idea of like what the process was like for going from start to finish with drawings and paintings. And just a couple examples of the drawing program there that inspired me to go. So on the left here is a drawing that I did from a photo, just kind of getting ready to go to school. And then on the right here is my first ever figure drawing class. You can see it's pretty bad. So I spent about a year and a half at Watts. We primarily worked in 18 by 24 newsprint drawings, mostly charcoal. This is about 2/3 of the drawings that I did over that year and a half. The other third just kind of went straight into the garbage. So just to give you some idea of what this much mileage looks like, my drawings went from this to this in about a year and a half. I show you this because I'm really proud of it, but also because drawing is really a skill. I feel like people really look over that. You know, we look at things like piano playing or welding, and people say, oh, of course, it takes a lot of work and effort to really develop those kind of skills. But art, oh, you're just born with, right? I think there's some degree of like inherent creativity and talent in that sense, but if you're just learning drawing and painting skills, like mileage is really what's going to get you there. So during my time at Watts, I started gouache painting. I took my first gouache painting class. So on the left is a picture of that. The first painting that I did from the photo on the bottom. And then on the right here is one of my first plein air paintings. So I went out with a couple friends kind of down the street from the school, and we painted one of the local theaters. You can see a couple figures on the, kind of in the center here. I think someone was like getting arrested or something, but I didn't put that in there. So just a couple inspirations that I learned about while I was in school. I think most of these in here are gouache painters. On the left, if you're in the class from this morning, you've heard about these already, but Stepan Kolesnikov has been a big inspiration for me, especially in my landscape work. I just really love those expressive trees, kind of textural shapes that are almost abstract. Edward Theodore Compton was a English and German landscape artist as well as an alpinist. I think besides making paintings like this, he also had like 30 first ascents of like big mountains. Some Japanese background artists. So it's kind of hard to look at a painting like this and think that it's just a background for a movie, but yeah, just a big inspiration, Kazuo Oga. Definitely recommend you check him out. Some American painters, they like George Carlson. I think he's out of Idaho, but just really nice sense of color and composition. Fairly simple, but really tells like a good story. And bringing it back to T. Allen Lawson, he's out of Sheridan, Wyoming. And jury that show that I was in last year, but I really love his sense of composition and simplicity as well. just kind of start with like a simple idea and then really flesh it out. You don't need a whole lot. Not every composition has to have a lot going on. This is a Japanese block printing artist that I've been really big into lately. So on the left is part of an American series that he did. This is, I think, Mount Rainier in Washington. And then on the right, it's just kind of this nice waterfall or river sort of scene. So after my time in San Diego, I felt like I'd gained a lot of good structural drawing knowledge, which is what their program is really strong in and known for. But I felt like my paintings and especially portrait paintings were kind of lacking a bit, and I wasn't really sure where to look. I ended up getting in touch with a friend who was studying in Portland, doing an apprenticeship with this artist, Nathan C. And on the right here, you can see there's definitely a stylistic difference. You have a lot more texture. He's also using willow charcoal instead of pencils. And that just felt really new and interesting to me. His painting on the left here, I remember seeing this and just feeling like it had such a sense of freshness and life, and was wanting to absorb some of that knowledge. So after leaving Watts, I ended up moving to Portland, Oregon, and studying with Nathan for several months. On the left here, again, is one of my first drawings from that time. So I found willow charcoal really hard to get a hold of. It's hard to make those really tiny shapes and keep them intact. So you can see me just kind of struggling to find that a little bit. And then maybe about another year and a half later, is the one on the right here, I started reincorporating pencils back into my practice, tightening up some of the shapes, but still trying to keep that overall tonal life in the drawing. During that time, I was also starting to make more paintings outside. So these are different Portland area paintings. They have a really beautiful flower season. So the bottom left one there is a good example of that. I was experimenting with using watercolors too, like the top left one here, but just settled on gouache because it felt like it had more flexibility to me. You can kind of paint over things. It's better for working quickly outside. So on the left here is Cannon Beach in Oregon, popular tourist spot, but also just a beautiful place to paint. This one on the right here is one of the big mountains in the area. They have some nice hilly parks where you can go, and there's like these branches that just kind of reach down, and I felt like it would make a really nice composition. So during that time, I started teaching as well. Nathan eventually left to do a residency abroad. So me and my friend were kind of just left to take care of things at the studio. So we started teaching classes. On the left is one of my portrait drawing classes. Actually, both of these are. So on the left, we were just talking about like the skull and how the structure of the skull influences portraits. So it's really nice to understand the underlying parts of things if you're going to draw them really well. On the right here, we're just talking about individual features and how best to represent them, kind of the little nuances and tricks you can do. I also had the opportunity to have my first solo show there. So the show was called Around Town, and it was just kind of collections of really intimate portraits of different places around my neighborhood. I had about maybe 20 paintings in that show. So eventually, when the pandemic hit, I started teaching online, and I left Portland and moved to Denver. During this time, I also started experimenting with some larger plein air paintings like this one, taking my oils outside for the first time, and just trying to really experience the outdoors that way. So some recent paintings. On the left is a trip to Utah. On a trip to Utah that I had recently. I I think both of these are actually up right now. I'm going to take them down when I leave later today, so if you want to see these in person, go ahead and take a look after this. On the right here is a view of Telluride. I've also started moving into scaling up some of my work. So on the left here is a coast painting in California. I did that smaller one in person and then took it home to the studio. And this one's about 24 by 30 on the right here. Just a photo of the studio space that I'm using right now. This one's Garden of the Gods, you might be familiar. A couple more recent paintings. This one's out in Zion. Has anyone done the Angel's Landing hike? No? Okay. Well, if you do, you'll be able to see this up there. Red Rocks out in Denver. I've been really into putting branches in front of things. I feel like it kind of adds a sense of depth and interest and gives that kind of like spindly sort of feeling that I was really inspired by in those Kolesnikov paintings. And then I've been back to Oregon since the pandemic ended to teach a little bit more and then also do some more painting. So here's a trip from earlier this year, just some ocean scenes. Since starting to work in the studio a little bit more, I've started exploring more conceptual portraiture. So the one on the left here, you can actually see in the show. Pretty different, obviously, than some of my other work, but I'm starting to tie in some of my roots with drawing and portraiture and bring it into my painting practice. So the one on the left here is a double portrait of one of my friends, Alex. The painting is really about just conversations we were having during COVID about kind of belonging and cultural meaning and race. I was also starting to explore some just cultural motifs like lotus flowers, more graphic cloud shapes. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what further paintings are going to look like. And I'm also hoping to scale up and do some bigger life-size portraits. If you're going to be in the area next summer, I'm actually going to be painting for Fort Collins mural project. And this is the design that I submitted to them. This is one of my friends, Michael. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, thank you all for coming out, and if you have any questions, yeah, I'll take them now. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you did a commission for someone. Like, how much do you usually charge for commissions?
It really depends. Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I've tried to come up with like a price per square inch.
I'm always curious because, like,
Yeah.
I actually commission some artists sometimes, usually digital artists, and I'm always just like curious how much people usually charge, like based on whether they use material or their time and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And I just find that interesting personally as someone learning to art myself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the best way I've found to do that for myself is charge by like size, probably by the square inch, as if it was like a house painting project. And then obviously the price changes if you have a frame, if they want it shipped, if it's really detailed, things like that. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really have any good examples of that, but I have done some portrait painting kind of throughout. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So what do you usually sketch with, then you can paint over and all that? What do you draw with?
Yeah, for my gouache paintings, it's mechanical pencil. So you can paint directly over that. If you use graphite under oil paintings, it kind of bleeds with like the turpentine. So I usually just sketch directly in paint with the oils. Yeah.
I was an engineer and I started out drafting, like graphite and all that. And I would sketch, but I would always, like I say, kind of do the wash kind of thing, and I
Uh-huh.
could still see it. So I almost just, my idea, I've got some watercolor pencils, kind of slightly.
Yeah, those are nice.
And it bleeds right in, see.
Yeah, I have some trouble with watercolor pencils because they tend to change the color of whatever you're putting down,
Yeah,
but
it bleeds.
yeah. No, those are a good option though.
Yeah.
If we go back, this one you can actually see on the right, you can still see some of the pencil. That went pretty light with the wash and the clouds. But I thought it gave it kind of a nice feeling. You know, you don't always have to cover up your work. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually feel like the pencil lines almost kind of give me like weird flocks of birds feeling.
Oh, yeah? Oh, cool.
So sometimes they just kind of like move in weird directions.
Uh-huh.
Make funny lines.
Yeah, they create like these weird lines. Great. Well, yes.
Can you go head back to one with Japanese culture with the alleyway, right?
The alleyway.
It was like the one that was in that one actually reminded me.
The early one?
Yeah, the one. It reminded me a lot of Studio Ghibli.
This one?
Kind of.
Oh, wait, this one here? Yeah, this is one of the background painters for Studio Ghibli. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, you've probably seen this exact painting before in a movie. Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering because like I know what that is.
Yeah, question up top. Most difficult to paint? Well, I guess people. I think you really just want to capture like a certain, feeling of a person, or sometimes even the likeness of a person, and that's a little more particular sometimes than a landscape. No one's gonna care if the tree has a branch here or a branch here, right? But if you put the ear in the wrong place, a lot of people are gonna notice. So, yeah. For practice, consistent practice, honestly, going to school. Part of what really helped me was doing that, and I'm a pretty undisciplined person, just for myself. So, going to school and having someone who's kind of directing me and telling me what to do is really helpful for me. I know some people can just kind of have their own practice and stick to it really well, but I work really well under those kind of structures. So.
On that topic, you actually mentioned something about how you felt like art was like a skill type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you mean like as in people can't work towards having that skill, or do you think that some people are just born with it? Because I know that's a huge debate for a lot of artists, is whether or not you're simply born with that talent or not.
Yeah, totally. Obviously that's a big discussion, but I think that no one is born able to draw like a perfect portrait or like be able to mix colors. Those are learned skills, right? And within that, finding inspiration for paintings, having, kind of having an inspiration where you want to put your emotions on the page and that kind of thing, or having a story that you want your paintings to be about, those are more individual, right? So I think that if you think of like learning scales for piano, at a certain point when you've like trained those kind of skills for long enough, you're able to express what you want to say better, right? And for some reason, people don't look at drawing and painting that way, but really it is, right? So if you build your compositional skill, your sense of composition, the way you look at things, then you're going to be able to express what you want to say better, right? Okay, yeah, please. Okay, any others?
I got one.
Yeah.
A lot of folks in the color theory class, they've worked with acrylic paint, red, blue, yellow, and mixing color. Working a little with CMYK, or now working in a digital platform, think about RGB color. And I know some of us saw your demo this morning in terms of how you're laying out pigment and things. When you're out in the field, you're out somewhere painting a space in front of you. How do you think about the color? How do you, I don't know, how do you break it down? Are there always tubes of paint you're pulling out and, kind of mixing a palette from, or are you kind of winging it? Or, I don't know, you want to talk a little bit about how you approach it?
Yeah, sure. So when I first learned, like, when I first took my color, when I took my first color theory class at Watts, they used a warm-cool palette. So essentially, you have like a warm and cool version of all the primaries, and then you mix colors that way. I think that's a great way to paint. What I have been using for the past couple of years is actually like a CMYK palette. So, let me see, these later ones. So some of these, the colors I had on my palette, it was white, yellow, quinacridone magenta, and then cyan. Actually, ultramarine blue also. So CMYK, but with two blues, basically. And then just mixing all the colors from that. You really can get like a huge range of colors just with that palette. So it's not necessary to have like a ton of colors. You can save yourself a little bit of money too by not going out and buying a bunch of tubes. Having like green or a purple sometimes will make things a little faster, but you really can do a lot with just those colors. If you think of like printing, which is CMYK is what they use in printing, right? They're making that whole range of colors with just those three colors and then black, right? So I'm actually moving away from doing that, or not moving away from it, but just adding a couple colors in just for convenience. But it was kind of a fun experiment for a couple years to do that. Trying to see if, so here on the bottom you can see a little bit more of the palette that I'm using now. It's kind of like an expanded CMYK with a couple secondary colors. Yeah, maybe not the best example. I'm like not the cleanest painter, so yeah, right. Cool. All right, well, thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate you being here and hope you enjoyed it.